How's going guys, welcome to the channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the angel of the apocalypse and got harem? Part 2. If you wants to see awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. Hive. You sure about this? There is no turning back once you get in the pit. Tenten nodded, I'm sure. Everyone stood in the training area and watched quietly as Naruto pushed a button on his gauntlet and a podium-like control panel rose from the floor. Keying in a series of codes, the training ring started to split open from the middle, revealing a large rectangular pit about 15 feet in depth. The pit's walls and floor were made from xeno resin and metal, with the walls forming a labyrinth of mazes. There were holes on the walls and floors which were the entrances exits to tunnels that ran throughout and under the pit. With a nod of his head, two warriors and a runner ran into the mini-labyrinth and disappeared into some of the many tunnels. Flashback no jutsu. Are you insane? Kurenai screamed and walked up and down the hall rubbing her temples and grumbling about dangerous and stupid acts. Tenten had just informed everyone that she had just convinced Naruto to allow her to take the hunter's trial. The reactions were mixed, Kurenai was violent, Kakashi dropped his book, Hinata felt faint, Sasuke and Neji were wide-eyed, and Ino and Sakura were acting like goldfish. Maybe Naruto-kun will take it easy on her. No. He made it very clear that I could die during the trial. I will have to face 3 drones on my own. No outside help. Everyone fell silent, especially Kurenai who fell into a chair, her head in her hands. She could not believe Tenten would do something so unnecessary stupid even. Tenten, I think you should forget about taking the trial. Fighting 3 of those things face to face is going to be dangerous. Actually Naruto said the trial will be to kill all 3 drones in a maze-like arena. What? That's it you are pulling out of this trial. Kurenai-sensei. Tenten spoke in a calm tone, I've thought long and hard about this, and I want to do this. Kakashi. Say something. Train. Everyone turned to Kakashi. We'll have to train her into the ground to prepare her for the trial. The good thing is a weapons specialist is probably as good as a fire user to face those things. Everyone agreed, some more reluctant than others and spent the next couple of days training Tenten. Kakashi and Sasuke even tried to teach her a fire jutsu or 2, but she was not able to use fire chakra, so they had to train on her speed and reflexes. As the day of the trial drew closer, the tension grew, especially for Kurenai and Tenten. Flashback high. Tenten jumped into the pit and looked back as Naruto activated the pit, and 4 giant metal plates started to rise and join to form a pyramid triangle ceiling over the pit. The ceiling was opaque with different shape-size windows that allowed light through. Naruto pushed a couple more keys and some light lit in the pit. Several holographic screens appeared, most showing Tenten. Begin. Tenten drew a kunai and slowly made her way through the maze-like corridors of the pit, staying away from the walls, especially when the entrances of the tunnels were visible. What she did not notice was a warrior crawling along the ceiling above her. Tenten. Above you. Ino warned. She can't hear you. From here on out, she's on her own. The warrior dropped from above Tenten, but she rolled out of the way and threw her kunai at it, which it hit away with its tail and charged her. Tenten blocked a swing from the warrior with her arm and punched it in the stomach, ducking a tongue strike at the same time. She jumped back as it ran back into a tunnel. The runner tried a tail strike from one of the tunnels, but she ducked the tail strike to her head and threw a kunai with an exploding tag, but the runner ducked back into the tunnel, avoiding the blast. Tenten thought about following it into the tunnel but thought better of it, better to fight in the open where she could see them. They had the advantage in the dark confined spaces of the tunnels. She rolled out of the tail strike from a warrior hanging on the ceiling and threw 6 kunais at it, forcing it to drop from the ceiling and face her head on. The warrior's claws slashed across Tenten's arm, ripping her sleeve and drawing blood. She threw a couple of shurikens at the warrior and had to dodge a tail strike from the second warrior from behind. Tenten. Kurenai screamed and looked to Naruto hoping that he would stop this, but was disheartened to see an indifferent look on his face. But what Kakashi noticed that she did not was that every time Tenten had a close call or got hurt, Naruto's face would twist just a little. Tenten threw a demon windmill shuriken at the first warrior, Kage Shuriken Jutsu. The single shuriken turned into 5, forcing the warrior to run back into the tunnel, but what it failed to notice was that Tenten had thrown a kunai with an explosive tag into the tunnel before it ran in. She turned around and jumped back, avoiding a pounce from the runner, just as the explosive tag detonated sending shrapnel and acid blood towards Tenten's back. AHHH. Tenten fell to the ground as the runner approached her and picked her up by her throat and opened its mouth, ready to end it. The girls couldn't look. Tenten shoved a kunai up the runner's chin, forcing its mouth shut and to let go of her. She quickly unsealed a katana and beheaded the struggling runner. Tenten looked around, katana at the ready trying to find the last drone. Suddenly, the warrior broke through the floor, grabbed her and bit her thigh, but just as it let go to try a head bite, Tenten took a swing cutting off both its arms and the front half of its head. She then slowly pulled herself out of the hole, ignoring the acid that was burning her already injured leg. Naruto dropped the ceiling, and the girls quickly ran in to check and heal Tenten, missing the loud sigh of relief that Naruto let out. If you were so worried about her, you shouldn't have let her attempt the trial. Sasuke smirked. Shut it, Sasuke. The girls quickly got to Tenten and pulled her out of the hole and started to treat her wounds. You did it, Tenten. You passed the trial. Ino congratulated her while she healed her back. It was still a stupid thing to do. You could have been killed. Sakura reprimanded as she healed her leg, but all the same, you did great. Thanks guys. Tenten started to relax as the pain she experienced started to lessen. Congratulations, Tenten. They turned to see Naruto walking towards them leading the guys. You know what happens now, don't you? Tenten nodded and started to unbutton her top, shocking everyone. Tenten, what are you doing? Sakura stopped her from taking off her top. Betting my mark. She looked towards Naruto, who broke off the finger of one of the dead Zenos before kneeling in front of her. Sakura reluctantly backed away as Tenten took off her top, showing her pink bra. Kurenai, Sakura and Ino glared at the guys, who averted their eyes. Naruto used the claw of the finger, which had some acid on it, to draw the mark of a full-fledged predator just above her left wrist. He placed his fingers on it and channeled chakra into the mark, which glowed red for a moment, healing, leaving just a scar. Good, now sign your name on this in blood, then place your fingerprints at the bottom of your name. Naruto unsealed a summoning contract and unrolled it, revealing his name to be the only name on the contract. Tenten did as instructed. Naruto nodded in approval before rolling up the scroll and sealing it back into a small storage scroll. He walked over to the only complete Xeno skull and started to skin and cure the skull as everyone watched fascinated. Naruto picked it up and handed the blenched skull of the slaved runner to Tenten, who got back to her feet, forgetting to button up, and accepted the skull. Your first trophy. Thank you, Naruto. Naruto spoke as he walked away. Rest now, we will start your training tomorrow. Lunch will be ready in an hour. Hive, Konoha room. Tenten walked in and placed her trophy on the table and admired the quality work Naruto did in preserving the skull. She wondered what other trophies she could earn in the future. Maybe Naruto and her could go on an animal safari one day. She was so lost in thought that she did not notice Sakura observing the skull till she heard Ino say something. You were so cool in there. I'm sure if Guy Sensei or Lee were around, they'd be screaming about your flames of youth and some other junk. Yes, you were very impressive in there. I'm proud to have you as my teammate. What I'm interested in is how do those things hunt. Naruto cleaned out all the organs, but there are no obvious signs of eyes or noses. Everything was quiet for a moment as they thought about what Sakura said. They would have to give the skull to the Hokage to study later if Tenten doesn't mind. Tenten looked good in pink. Kakashi randomly spoke out while Sasuke nodded in agreement. Hentai. Kurenai hit Kakashi and Sakura smacked the back of Sasuke's head. Naruto walked into the queen's chamber, who looked up as if waking from sleep. What do you think of her? He asked, pausing for a moment listening. I'm glad you agree that she is a good addition to the hive, but like I said, whether she stays with us in the end or we return to Konoha remains to be seen. Naruto listened for a moment before smirking and walking out the room as the queen smiled before going back to sleep. Naruto and Tenten stood in the middle of the clearing that he and Kakashi had been using to try and complete the Rasengan. Now it was just him and Tenten since he trusts her enough and she earned the right to some of his technique, though he was very sure she was more interested in the weapons he'll allow her to use. The hand signs to summon the angels are the same as any other contract, and normally once you sign a summoning contract you can't sign another, but like I said before, the Angels of the Apocalypse is not a true summoning contract in the traditional sense. So can you still summon toads? Yes, I can. I just haven't done so in a long time, and you can still sign another summoning contract. If you do, all you have to do is to call out Angels of the Apocalypse, and you will summon the angels instead of your other summons. The difference and the difficult part of this is that you must keep in mind what and how many you want to summon. Blood and chakra are the sacrifice and will activate the scroll. I want you to focus on summoning as many warriors as you can. Tenten nodded, bit her thumb and went through the seal and slammed her hand on the floor, summoning jutsu. Angels of the Apocalypse. A cloud of white smoke appeared, and as it cleared it revealed 2 warriors and a runner. Not bad, Tenten. Now try again, this time, channel as much chakra as you can, and remember warriors only. Naruto dismissed the drones as Tenten tried again, this time summoning 3 warriors. They carried on for the rest of the day till it was dinner time. The Konoha entered their room and gathered in the hall, all anxious about Tenten's progress. So Tenten, how did your training go with Naruto today? Kakashi asked since Naruto spent the day training Tenten and they'd mapped as much of this place as they could. He spent most of the day catching up on his reading. Well, we spent the day practicing summoning his angels. I can only summon 5 warriors. My chakra reserves aren't large enough to summon more, so I have to work on increasing my chakra reserves. I guess I can work with you on some chakra exercises. I think you girls should join in, you could always use better control and increase your chakra reserves. Kurenai suggested and the girls nodded. Anyway, can you guys believe how great a cook Naruto is? Man, I could eat his cooking every day. Konoha, Hokage's office. I, Asuma, Shikamaru, Shino, Choji, Kiba and Lee were gathered in the Hokage's office, waiting for her and her assistant as instructed when said people walked into the room. Tsunade gave a tired sigh as she dropped in her chair. Hard time with the council? Shikamaru asked. Stupid civilians demanding that we crash our enemies and the elders adding fuel by saying it makes us look weak and that damn war hawk wanting to send our Anbu, not his mind you straight into the heart of Iowa for the Tsuchikage's head. Idiots. Tsunade reached over to her special drawer and pulled out a jar of sake and has about to take a drink before it was taken away by her assistant. God damn it. Give me that Shizune. Can you at least brief them first before you decide to get yourself stone drunk? Shizune motioned to the nin present. Fine. The council still does not know that it was Naruto that attacked those camps, and thankfully Naruto has not released his bingo book yet, if not it will be even more difficult to keep his identity secret. Yes, it seems Kakashi was successful in delaying the bingo book. I want the two of you to take your teams and Kurenai's back to Naruto's base and set up a meeting between him and me. In the meantime, I want you to bring the others back. The council is starting to get suspicious about the missing members, though the ninjas are keeping quiet. Hi Hokage-sama. Now. Give me my sake. Hive, training area. Now that you've got a grasp of summoning, it will be up to you to practice and refine your skills. Hi. So today, I've decided to work on what is your most obvious strength. Naruto created a shadow clone and sent it to the other end of the fighting ring. Go ahead and throw some kunes or shurikens at it. Tenten threw 3 kunai at the shadow clone, which created a wind barrier that blew the kunes away, reminding Tenten of her defeat at the hands of Temari at the Chunin preliminaries a couple of years ago. Now watch this. Naruto removed a disc from a holder on his thigh and threw it at his clone. Halfway towards its target it was surrounded by a powerful electric charge. The clone created a more powerful wind barrier than before, but the disc corrected itself and flew through the barrier, cutting the clone in half before it dispelled, as well as grazing a pillar before it flew back to Naruto who caught it. This is a chakra or smart disc. It is an extremely sharp circular weapon that is thrown like a discus and returns to the user like a boomerang. This weapon is extremely powerful and can easily cut through flesh and bone. It can also be used as a slashing melee weapon. Tenten looked at the weapon in awe. It is yours as soon as you can master this. Naruto held up a similar looking weapon, but the edges looked blunt. This is a training disc. I lost a lot of shadow clones practicing with the real thing, and I'd prefer for you to remain in one piece. Though Tenten was a little disappointed, she gave Naruto a smile, after all he was only looking out for her. She took the training disc and threw her arms around his neck hugging him. Arigato Naruto-kun. They stared into each other's eyes for a moment before they started to draw closer together. Tenten closed her eyes as their lips met in a soft but lingering kiss. Unbeknownst to the two at the time, Sakura had walked in on the two of them and hid back into the corridor. She couldn't help but feel hurt and jealous, but most of all, regret. It's been 3 days since Sakura saw Naruto and Tenten kiss and she wasn't feeling any better. She was angry, hurt, jealous and downright confused. She hadn't tried to speak to Naruto alone the last 2 days and she was pretty sure Tenten was with him in the evenings after training with Kakashi since she was hardly in their room after dinners. She had no idea what he felt for her. Did he still have feelings for her? Heck, did she even feel that way about him after everything that's happened? Yesterday was when she reached her boiling point. Tenten had returned from her training session with Naruto and she was glowing, and as if that wasn't enough, she was humming and there was just that extra spring in her step. Ino had just brushed it off as just Tenten being really happy to get some new toys, but she knew better. So here she was now, in the middle of the forest clearing, a clearing she made herself after taking some of her frustrations out on the trees, but it wasn't enough. She was breathing hard, but it didn't help her much. You know, there are probably easier ways of clearing a forest. Ways that are not likely to draw attention to the hive. Naruto dropped down a few feet behind her and removed his mask and attached it to his hip. She really did not want to see him right now, at least not till she got her head straight. Not easy when you have a damn inner voice shouting perverted nonsense about her and Naruto every other hour. Why don't you tell me what's wrong? You haven't come back to try and talk for a couple of days now. It's nothing, can you just drop it? You know you're acting like you're hiding something and avoiding me. Did I do something? Sakura couldn't look at him, she wasn't sure which would have been worst, him looking at her in concern like he used to or with a near emotionless look on his face he has on most of the time since they found him. Sigh, it's nothing Naruto and it's not your fault. Not entirely, she thought to herself as she turned to walk away. You seem pretty worked up about something. How about I help you relieve some of that stress? How about a spar? Not interested. She continued to walk away. If you beat me or at least impress me, I'll start calling you Sakura-chan again if you like. Sakura stopped in mid-stride, she did not have to turn around, she could almost feel that damn foxy grin of his and without turning around, started to put on her gloves and cracked her knuckles. This was too good of an opportunity to pass up, a 2-for-1 deal. She could vent her frustrations, and she might be able to get him to be more open towards her. Naruto did not like the smirk she had on her face as he kept his guard up. He picked up a small pebble, we'll start when this hits the ground. Naruto threw the paddle straight up and got into a defensive stance. Just as the pebble hit the ground, Sakura punched the ground causing it to crack and break, sending a shockwave towards Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened at the destruction before him, what insane strength. How'd you like that, Naruto-kun? She smirked as she ran towards him. She gathers chakra in her fists and releases it at the precise moment of impact. It takes perfect chakra control. Shit. Then I better not get hit or I'm dead. Naruto thought as he dodged a couple of punches and tried to sweep kick Sakura, but she jumped out of the way and threw 3 kunes at him. Naruto jumped up and created 5 shadow clones and sent them to fight her. Fighting her in a straight Taijutsu match is suicide with her super strength, and she knows it. Naruto thought as she dispelled his clones and he got the information from them. Naruto avoided a couple more of her punches and tried to hit her with a roundhouse kick which she blocked and tried to connect with a roundhouse of her own. Naruto ducked and tried to connect with an uppercut. Sakura jumped back avoiding the uppercut, landed on a tree and jumped off the tree as a black tentacle left a large gash on the spot where she was. Naruto figured that he most likely lost to Sakura's strength punch for punch, and he was not good enough of a grappler to take her on in that just left speed which he hoped he could match her, and stamina which he was pretty sure he could beat her in. Naruto created 7 shadow clones, and together they surrounded her and started to attack from all sides, forcing Sakura to go on the defensive, hoping to try and wear her down. Because of the multiple attacks and avoidance of her attacks, Sakura was forced to block also all the hits which were starting to hurt. You either have to get serious or creative if you want to win this fight. I think I have an idea that I want to try. Naruto dispelled the clones and dropped in front of Sakura, who threw a punch right at Naruto's chest, sending the both of them sliding forward back several feet. Not bad, Sakura-chan. Sakura looked surprised, Naruto had caught her punch with both hands. Oh, how did you do that? I gathered chakra in my palms and released it the same time you hit. He answered as he walked away. She stood there stunned for a few moments, but brightened up when she realized he called her Sakura-chan. Impressive, kid. Your chakra control has definitely improved. Yes, but it's still nowhere near Sakura's level. That really hurt. Naruto went to get some ice for his sore hands while trying to ignore QP's laughter. Stupid fox. The team of Konohinin arrived at the entrance to the tunnel they had exited the hive almost 3 weeks ago. Asuma was about to try and find the trapdoor, but stopped when he heard a hiss and looked up to see a runner in front of the group. Easy. Asuma backed up with his hands up. We're just here to see Naruto. Not to fight or anything. The runner watched them for a moment before swinging its head to the side and ran off in that direction before stopping and looked back at them. I think it wants us to follow it, Kiba suggested. They nodded and followed the runner to a clearing where they saw the other Konohinin standing there. Yo Kakashi. Guy yelled, grabbing the attention of all the nin. Ai-sensei. Lee. Tenten greeted. Asuma-sensei. Shikamaru. Choji. You're back. What's going on here? Asuma asked, noticing several targets set at the center of the clearing and Naruto standing between them and the targets. I believe Naruto's finished his technique. Kakashi answered. Naruto started to draw on the fox's chakra, causing his pupils to turn into slits. As he started to form a Rasengan, a shadow clone appeared and started to apply nature manipulation. What is that? Ino stared at the glowing sphere in Naruto's hand. That's some screech and the chakra is incredible. Wow. Wind style. Rasen Shuriken. Naruto threw the disc at the targets. Just as it reached the targets, it expanded, cutting them in half before exploding, sending a shockwave towards them. Amazing. The number of hits was extraordinary. Even with the Sharingan I couldn't count them. This is going to be troublesome, I just know it. Naruto smiled at the power of his wind elemental Rasengan before his face looked like he just realized something and started to laugh. It was a dark, almost evil laugh that sent chills down everyone's spine. It's time. What do you mean, Naruto? Sakura asked. I'm heading to Iwa. Salhep. The wolf. I have not been able to find any info on other predalien types cast other than the one in AVPR and the comics, which are pretty much the same except for the breeding ability, and the one in the comic had armor, so for now I stick with what I've done. I played very the idea of a predalien queen that could breed more predaliens, but that is way too immal. Regrading the omics, there will be no more yaoi omics in this fic. My beta will be posting all her yaoi omics on her own profile. I still don't understand how can both my betas be yaoi fangirls. So if there are any omics here, I promise no more yaoi, just funny or bloody, whichever hits me. Thanks for the support, review and ideas. On with the story. Hive. Naruto walked swiftly through the corridors towards the armory, the Konohinin hot on his heels. Naruto-kun, what do you mean you're going to Iwa? Sakura asked as she ran up next to him. Naruto stopped in front of the armory, punched in the code and walked through. The guys who had not seen the armory before stared wide-eyed at the assortment of weapons at Naruto's disposal. Tenten grabbed Asuma's cigarette and stepped on it. Sorry Asuma-sensei, no smoking in the weapons room. Nah, Naruto-kun. My techniques are ready. So it is time to put my plans into action. Naruto grabbed dozens of kunais and shurikens and placed them on the table with some scrolls, along with a couple of predator shurikens and a pair of combi sticks. And you're planning on attacking Iwa? Troublesome. Naruto, I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto placed a chakra on his right thigh and locked an attachment on each of his gauntlets. This is business, nothing personal. Still, we are grateful that you're not attacking Konoha but one of our enemies. In fact, the Hokage is hoping to meet you and arrange an alliance, and with this I'm sure she'll. Asuma stopped talking when Naruto pointed his right arm at his head, then a turret lifted from his gauntlet. Do not assume too much, Asuma-san. Everyone tensed. Just because my target happens to be one of your enemies doesn't mean I'm aligning myself with Konoha. There is little I want to do with that village, and I can easily change my mind. They tensed even more when a couple of drones dropped in behind them. Everyone started to nervously look between Naruto and the drones, but all eyes turned to Tenten as she walked up to Naruto. She reached up and slowly lowered his arm. Naruto-kun, please. He locked back the turret and lowered his arm, making everyone breathe a sigh of relief as the drones disappeared from sight. Tread carefully, Tenten. Just because you bear my mark does not mean you are immune to my wrath. He sealed his chosen weapons into the scrolls and walked out of the room with them, the Konohinin parting like the Red Sea, but stopped and pointed at her forehead protector. As long as you wear that symbol you are not immune from my wrath. As he walked down the corridor, Kiba realized what he said. Hey. What did he mean, you bear his mark? Are you his mate or something? A thermonuclear blush appeared on Tenten's face. She and the other female chunin including Hinata screamed hentai. And hit him. What I say? Konoha, Hokage's office. Tsunade had finally finished the last of her paperwork and was now enjoying a well-deserved break. Thankfully there haven't been any council meetings recently, so she just had to tackle her normal foe, paperwork. While the civilians being quiet was of little concern to her, after all she had people reporting on them every once in a while. It was Danzo that she was worried about. The Warhawk had been quiet lately, too quiet. He was under watch almost 24 hours a day. She hated to think that resources were being wasted watching members of Konoha, but unfortunately not everyone on the council had Konoha's best intentions at heart, and Danzo was at the top of that list. Hours after Tsunade and Shizune left for home, an Anbu with a northeast mask walks out of the shadows and moves over to the Hokage's desk and opened a wood panel, revealing a safe. Spinning the dial to the correct combination, he opened it. He took out one of the scrolls, opened it, started to copy it before returning everything to the way it was, and disappeared without a trace. Hive. The girls walked to the corridors as quickly as they could without running. They had volunteered to talk to Naruto after everyone was brought up to speed about everything that's happened when the others were back in Konoha. They entered the throne room expecting to see Naruto working at his computer or sitting on his throne, but he was nowhere to be seen. They left the throne room and started to look everywhere they could except the queen's chamber, locked rooms and especially the birthing chambers, which they gave a wide berth. The girls walked back into the throne room and just started waiting till Tenten walked towards one of the wall that they knew hid the Xenos in plain sight. What are you doing? Ino asked. Well, Naruto-kun said that they will listen to me to a certain extent and after a while I will be able to start understanding them and use them for scouting. And you want to ask them where Naruto is? Sakura looked skeptical. It can't hurt. True. Can you tell me where Naruto-kun is? For a moment Tenten felt stupid when nothing happened, but some drones moved away from the wall next to the throne, revealing a door. Tenten touched the keypad and the door slid open, and the girls cautiously entered. The room was larger than the hall of their room and was lit by light blue lights, and unlike the throne room, the walls were made of stone. There were a few regular-sized doors in the room and one large one. There was a large desk with scrolls and a mask on it, as well as a few shelves with books and scrolls and weapons racks on the wall. There were also a small computer console on the wall next to a king-size bed. Is this Naruto-kun's bedroom? Nah, Naruto-kun's bedroom. Well, that baka's got to sleep sometimes. Could use a woman's touch, maybe some flowers. The girl spread out and looked around the room. Hinata stopped at a door and started to blush when she heard a shower being run behind it. She had a very good idea who was back there. Tenten walked over to the desk and picked up the mask. It looked the same as the one Naruto normally wore, including the markings, but this one was newer and had no signs of battle damage, and the metal straps that held the mask to his head were missing. Sakura sat on his bed and noticed two photo frames on the nightstand, and noticed one was the autographed photo from Princess Yuki, and the other was the photo of Team 7 when they were genin. He kept it. Sakura smiled and held their team photo to her chest. Ino looked at Sakura and shrugged before walking over to the largest and most intricately designed door and touched the panel that caused the door to open in the middle and swing outwards. Wonder what's in here? Ino looked into the room and fell on the floor, gasping and covering her mouth in shock. Ino, what's wrong, Okami-sama? The others appeared behind Sakura and Ino and saw what was in the room. It was Naruto's trophy room. It was filled with skulls. There were at least 6 Ino skulls. One did not look like any they had seen before. It looked like a mini queen's skull, but had a much smaller crest and 2 horns, one protruding for each side of its head. There were other skulls in there as well, like a giant snake that could swallow a man whole and saber-toothed tiger amongst other deadly predators, but what shocked them were the at least dozen human skulls, some with their spines attached hanging on the wall as well. I see you found my room and my trophies. The girls turned around and started to blush. Naruto had just gotten out of the shower, still wet with only a towel around his waist. As they took in his appearance, they can't help but blush brighter. Hinata had just invented several new shades of red, and though they would deny it if asked, more than one perverted thought crossed their minds, and some might even say they had little nosebleeds. His face was not the only part of him to lose its baby fat. There wasn't any noticeable fat on his body. It was lean, defined and athletic. His arms were strong, defined and wiry, but what drew their attention were the number of scars that covered his washboard abs and pecs. Ignoring the gawking girls, Naruto walks over to the cupboard and walks in, closing the door behind him, and after a moment walks out in a pair of black pants and found the girls in the exact same position he left them. Liked what you saw? He deadpanned. The girls blushed even more. What do you want? He asked as he pulled a gray tank top over his head and reached for his armor on his bed. Hey Naruto, what's with the attitude? You haven't spoken to us like that since the first week we met. Ino crossed her arms across her chest, annoyed at Naruto's attitude. I don't have time for pleasantries. Thanks to Kakashi, I can move up my plans, though I would have like at least 100 more drones on my side. I have enough. Then why attack now? Tenten asked. Because I'm ready, and after hitting those camps, Iwa has been more cautious. In fact, after those camps were wiped out, they pulled back most of their other forces that weren't already engaged in fighting to prepare for a possible strike. Only recently did they send out those forces again. How do you know all this? The same way I know everything else that's going on. I have my sources. He answered as he wore his gauntlets and checked them. When will you be leaving then? In 2 hours. I should be able to make it to a village a few hours from here by nightfall. He attached his plasma caster to his shoulder before grabbing his new mask, chakra and cloak and headed for a door across the bed, and I expect all of you to be ready to leave when I do. So you want us to come with and help you? Sakura asked almost hopefully. No. I expect you to leave and head back to Konoha. Hey. Is that how you treat guests, especially the hottest Kunoichis in Konoha? Ino huffed. Naruto smirked before putting his mask to his face and held it in place with chakra. He'd only recently gained enough confidence to use chakra to secure his mask instead of the original metal bars, and it made it easier to take the mask off. You've seen how I treat Kunoichis. His voice held just a hint of amusement as the door closed and locked behind him. You know, I think I preferred when he was still acting like an idiot back home. That's not a nice thing to say, Ino. Sakura sighed, and I thought that we finally made some progress. I was even hoping that the whole cold distant thing was just a facade. I guess not. Don't worry, Sakura. Naruto's still a good guy. I'm sure of it. Tenten tried to assure Sakura. What? Oh come on, we just got here. I'm tired. Kiba whined. Oh shut up, dog boy. Ino yelled. I bet you rode Akamaru all the way here and he's not complaining. The girls had just returned and informed the rest about Naruto's instructions and that they were not permitted to remain in the hive once Naruto left in just under 2 hours. Kiba was not happy. I know he's a stone cold bastard now, but the least he could do was let us spend the night in a nice warm bed and hot ow. What? Kiba yelled as he turned around and saw a pissed off Tenten holding up her fist. Naruto is not a stone cold bastard. He's kind-hearted, caring and warm. Sure, he kills without mercy, but we're ninja, that's a way of life for us. Jeez. Tenten, if I didn't know any better I'd say you liked him or something. I like Naruto-kun. Tenten admitted, blushing brightly. Everyone looked shocked and Hinata looked like she was about to cry. Tenten turned and bowed to Hinata. "I'm really sorry, Hinata. I know how you feel about, but I really do like him." I understand. Excuse me." Hinata ran off before she started crying in front of everyone. Shino and Kiba were about to go after her, but Kurenai told the two of them to stay put and went after her. "There's something else." Naruto jumped out of one of the tunnels and noticed the Konohinin packed and ready to leave, though Kiba was still unhappy if his grumblings were anything to go by. "Good, I see that you're packed. I will be going now. Maybe we will see each other again someday." Just as he turned to leave, Team Kakashi and Tenten appeared in front of him. Ma. Naruto, you don't think you're going on your own, did you?" Kakashi gave him an eye smile. "That is exactly what I'm thinking." Naruto tried to jump over them but was headed off by Sakura, then Tenten, who was closer, got in front of her. The three on them landed with Kakashi and Sasuke walking behind them just in time to hear a growl from Naruto and a softer one from Sakura. Tenten walked up to Naruto and cupped his cheeks and tried to remove his mask, but it wouldn't budge, so she just leaned in and pecked him on the mouth. "We're coming with you, Naruto, and unless you're going to fight us, there's nothing you can say that will change our mind." Sakura clenched her fist so hard that Sasuke heard the pops and took a couple of steps back, while Kurenai had to comfort Hinata, who had an air of depression hanging around her. "Do as you wish then, but don't get in my way." Naruto shined away. The small group nodded to the rest before going after Naruto. "Let's go. It will take them 4 to 5 days to get to Iwa if they travel almost non-stop, so we have to make it back to Konoha before they reach Iwa and inform the Hokage. Let's go." The Konohinin traveled as fast as they could, much to the delight of Lee and the charging of Kiba. "You know, I still don't get why the girls like a cold, dark and broody bastard like Naruto," Kiba grumbled. "I do believe it's a girl thing," Shino offered. "Or more precisely a fangirl thing if you remember the females who were after the Uchiha back when we were in the academy." "True, but the girls aren't fangirls anymore. Hey Shino, you think if I started acting all dark and broody that I'd be more popular with the girls?" Shino wisely chose not to comment and instead sped up away from Kiba. Oi, Shino." Naruto moved through the trees without a thought for the other ninjas keeping up with him. It was well after sunset when they arrived at the town Naruto spoke of. They got 3 rooms, one for Naruto, one for the girls and another for the guys at an inn. At dinner, Naruto opted for room service to avoid the others, though Sakura and Tenten did knock on his door every so often, much to his annoyance. The Konohinin took turns keeping watch, not only for possible attackers, but also to make sure Naruto did not leave without them. The rest of their journey was spent in tents, as there was only one more village less than a day from Iwa in the direction they were heading. At the border, they had to wait for a border patrol to leave the area before they could move on. At night, they camped out where they could and were hidden, and Naruto would send some drones to set up a perimeter around them. Tenten and Sakura spent whatever time they could spare trying to talk to Naruto and getting him to open up. Tenten having more success than Sakura, much to the medic's charging. They arrived at the last village before they reached Iwa, which was less than a day away. After picking up some additional supplies and weapons from the local blacksmith, they had dinner before heading to the inn. 3 rooms. One for me, one for the girls and one for the 2 guys. Naruto reached for a scroll, but Tenten pushed past him. "Actually, I'd like to room with him." She pointed to Naruto. Nobody knew what he was thinking because of his mask. "Tenten. You can't sleep in the same room as a guy alone." Sakura screamed. "Why not?" Tenten wrapped her arms around Naruto's neck and gave an innocent look. Kakashi and Sasuke stepped away from Sakura as they could practically see and hear the steam coming out of her ears. It's indecent. "Naruto won't do anything against my will. Won't you, Naruto-kun? Leave me out of this." "Fine. Then I'm staying with you two as well." "Why?" "To keep you two out of trouble." Sakura reached over and grabbed the keys being held up by the receptionist and tossed one to Sasuke before walking off. While there were 2 single beds in Kakashi and Sasuke's room, there was only one queen-sized bed in the other. After some discussion, it was decided that the girls will get the bed and Naruto the couch. He was going to protest or walk out to get another room, but QB warned him against it for the sake of his health and the mission tomorrow. So he took a sit at the table and started to think about tomorrow, especially the targets he would have to hit first, like the garrisons and guard posts closest to the start point of the assault. Tenten was laying on the bed reading a magazine, and Sakura was taking a shower. Naruto closed his eyes and leaned his head back. "Welcome to my parlor," said the spider to the fly. He thought with a dark smile as he pushed a few buttons on his left gauntlet. Hive. Moonlight filled the corridor as a trapdoor to the surface was picked open, and the trap disarmed. 6 figures dropped into the corridor and moved silently down the corridor. The dim light revealed them to be Rude Anbu. Danzo had gotten word of Naruto and having strange and deadly creatures at his disposal. Having acquired a map of the hive from Tsunade's office, Danzo wanted the creature to be captured for him to train and use or to be destroyed, so that even if Naruto decided to help Tsunade, he wouldn't be of much help. He, Naruto, was a fool, so Danzo did not consider him much of a threat, but the creatures could be another story. The queen looked up and smiled like the predator she was, a spider waiting for its prey to enter its web. The rude Anbu fearlessly entered the room, the door slide closed behind them, not that it concerned them. They drew their swords while one drew a pair of kunes with exploding tags and threw them at the queen. Just as the kunes were sent flying, a Praetorian dropped from the ceiling and took the hits to the top of the head, detonating them. The fire and smoke cleared, revealing the Praetorian was completely unharmed, except for the smoke raising from the top of its head crest, which was smaller than the queen's. It was taller than a warrior, just slightly shorter than the Predalien. Its body was also leaner than a warrior's, and it stood upright. The Praetorian suddenly disappeared from sight and reappeared in front of the closest Anbu, driving its clawed hand through his stomach. His last thought was how fast the Praetorian moved. The guard swung its tail at another root member who blocked the strike with his sword. Some of the other root members jumped back and got into a fighting stance, but what the would-be assassins failed to notice or even consider was that there was more than one Praetorian guard in the queen's chamber. Two of them realized too late as two more Praetorian reared their heads from their hiding place and shot their tongues through the back of their heads. The lone female member of the group quickly went through a couple of hand seals, but before she could complete it, she was ripped in half at the waist when a Praetorian grabbed her legs and another grabbed her under her arms and pulled in opposite directions. One of the remaining rude Anbu felt something he hadn't felt in a long time and didn't think it was possible. He felt fear. He was so afraid that he turned and ran for the door, only to find that it was locked. He was slowly and painfully torn apart by two Praetorians that dropped on top of him. His screams filled the chamber as his blood flowed and his limbs torn from their joints. The lone remaining Anbu rushed forward, dodging all the guards and leap up, his sword ready to plunge it into the skull of the queen, but just as he got close enough the queen's arms shot forward, one grabbed the throat of the Anbu, and the other grabbed his arm at the wrist and with a hard twist and pull, snapped the arm and ripped it off at the shoulder. The Anbu was so shocked that he could not even scream. Mercifully the queen ended his suffering with a tongue strike through his mask between the eyes. Naruto opened his eyes and smiled to himself, fools. The queen is never alone and she is far from helpless. Tenten looked up when she heard Naruto give a dark chuckle. Naruto-kun. Nothing, Tenten. Just some pests that were taken care of. Naruto closed his eyes to try and keep his mind focused on what he will be doing in just under a day, till he felt Tenten press up against his back, hang her arms around his neck and rested her chin on his shoulder. Ryu, for your thoughts. Just thinking about tomorrow. You know, we'll be right there to back you up. I don't want to be associated with Konoha now. Fine. Before Naruto could ask her what she meant, Tenten took off her forehead protector and kept it in her backpack. She walked back to Naruto and straddling his lap and wrapped her arms around his neck as he wrapped his around her waist. Then it will be just you and me then. Naruto shook his head slowly. No, it will be just me, QP and the angels tomorrow. I don't want you to be in harm's way. Tenten folded her arms across her chest and pouted. Naruto, I'm not some fragile little girl, you know. I'm an experienced chunin. True, but if I fall, I'm taking Iwagakure with me. What do you mean? Tenten was almost afraid to ask. Naruto held up his left arm, showing her his gauntlet that had a few keypads on it, before flipping it open and showing 5 rectangular screens on the bottom. The predators believed in dying with honor, and that meant taking your enemies with you and/or not leaving a trace of you behind. This is a self-destructive eyes, it should be large enough to destroy half a village. Nah, Naruto. Promise me that tomorrow you and the others will just watch, and if I fall, run. Run and never look back. Naruto. I can't. You have to. Promise me. Promise me you will do what I say or I will leave you and the others behind. I promise. Naruto smiled reassuringly and slowly pulled her towards him. Tenten closed her eyes just as their lips meet. The soft kiss soon turned passionate as Tenten licked his lips asking for permission, which he gladly gave. Naruto's hands went to her hip and started to slide them up and under her top. What are you two doing? The pair turned to see a red-faced Sakura dressed in her night clothes, which consisted of a pair of shorts and t-shirt, pointing accusingly at them. Naruto could feel a headache coming on, but before he could stop himself, what does it look like? We were making out. Sakura looked shocked, then went absolutely red. Hentai. Tenten leaped out of Naruto's lap as Sakura's punch connected to his face. I knew it. She's as violent as before, maybe more. Naruto thought as he flew across the room. Did you still have so much to learn? Naruto could feel QB shake his head while Tenten and Sakura continued to argue about what they were doing. Next door, Kakashi and Sasuke sat on their respective beds, Kakashi's nose in a familiar orange book, but both listening to the noises from the next room. Iba's going to throw a hissy fit when he hears about the three of them sharing a room. Aha! Came Kakashi's lazy reply. You got the previous issue? Yup. Kakashi reached into his pouch and pulled out another orange book and handed it to Sasuke, who assumed a similar reading posture as Kakashi, both giggling every so often. Naruto put his mask and cloak on before walking out the door. He decided to get an early start and hopefully leave the others behind, but when he walked out into the hallway, he saw the others. He looked back into the room and noticed that the figures that were in the bed earlier had disappeared. Clones. You weren't planning to leave without us, were you, Naruto-kun? Sakura asked. That was exactly what I was thinking. He answered as he walked past them. There he goes with that attitude again. Naruto. We're a team and you're not going alone. Naruto stopped in his track and answered without turning around, we have not been a team for years, Sakura. And even if we were back then, we sure as hell aren't now. Sakura felt like she was going to cry, which Sasuke noticed and placed a comforting and supporting hand on her shoulder. I know, and I'm trying to make up for it. Naruto continued to walk away till Kakashi appeared in front of him. Do not get in my way, Hatake. Kakashi winced at his tone and addressing him by his family name, I'm not going to fight you, and I'm definitely not going to stop you. But like I told you when we left the hive, we're going with you to observe and if necessary back you up. That's right, dope. You may not think of us as a team, but you're still part of Team 7 or Team Kakashi as we're called now. So we're coming whether you like it or not. Do as you wish, but I won't be taken alive. You better fill them in Tenten. Hi. Iwagakure. The Rocky Mountain ranges that surround the village and country provide a natural stronghold, so it was only natural that some of its ninja were a little too relaxed for their own good while out on patrol even during a time of war, just like the squad of Chunin that were currently patrolling the western side of the range that overlooked the village. Just as a shinobi finished relieving himself and pulled his pants back up, a wire looped around his neck and pulled him up a few feet. Yo. Kenshi. Hurry up. The Iwa shinobi and Kunoichi turned towards the direction their teammate walked off to when they heard a twig snap. Naruto rushed forward, covering the shinobi's mouth with his left hand and stabbed him with his right wrist blades. The Kunoichi drew a kunai and was about to attack Naruto when Tenten appeared and knocked the kunai out of her hand with a pair of tonfa and followed through with a few well-placed strikes, knocking her out. Good. Summon a drone to take her back to the hive. Tenten was hesitant. She knew what awaited the woman if she was brought back to the hive. Tenten bit her thumb and summoned a warrior and shakingly pointed to the unconscious women, take her back to the hive. The warrior did as instructed and disappeared in a puff of smoke before she fell to her knees. Naruto walks up to her and placed his hands on her shoulder. It gets easier with time. I don't know if I want it to get easier. It makes me felt like I've lost my humanity if I did. I understand. I really do, but we are ninja. That career choice always involves death, even more so when we have to maintain the hive. Thanks. She got to her feet and gave Naruto a look of concern. Naruto, please. Won't you reconsider letting me back you up? No. Now go and hide with the others and remember your promise. Tenten nodded and gave him a quick kiss on the lips. Besides, if I die you'll be in charge of the hive more or less. He joked and chuckled at her shocked expression before pushing her towards the direction of the others who were observing at the edge of the tree line overlooking a cliff. Naruto stood on the edge of the cliff. It was a short drop to the bottom. Nothing here his angels could not survive. You ready, kid? As ready as I'll ever be. But then let the slaughter begin. Wahaha. Aren't you getting just a little too excited? Hey, cut me some slack. I'm a demon and it's the first time we'll be involved in a battle of this magnitude. Fine. Naruto's pupils became slits and a red chakra cloak started to surround him as drew on the fox's chakra. Kage Bushin no Jutsu. 16 shadow clones with slit eyes sans the chakra cloak appeared and paired off with one creating a Rasengan and the other applied elemental manipulation. Off in the distance, the Konohinin were watching what was happening with apprehension. They didn't know if Naruto was really that strong or that stupid to take on a major hidden village on his own. Maybe he was both. Kakashi had his hit eyed up and held up a video camera. Is he going to use that new wind technique of his? Tenten wondered. It would be a smart move. A few of those in the right places can severely cripple a village's defenses. Sasuke offered. Yes, but the screech from just one of those things is enough to give him away, plus if you think about it, as powerful as that move was, it's not exactly a blockbuster. Sakura countered. I don't think he's using that move. Look. Kakashi pointed. Instead of glowing brightly and giving off a loud screech, the Rasengans in the clone's hands started to condense and darken and gave off a soft deep hum. Just as the Rasengans shrunk to the size of a golf ball and turned completely black, a translucent sphere shell expanded from the core to the size of a regular Rasengan, as well as 4 balls of light moving within the shell around the core, like electrons around an atom. Dark style. Rasen Shinkyu. The clones yelled and threw the black sphere at their intended targets, which flew like little black comets. Instead of exploding on impact, the moment they hit their target, everything around them started to get crash and crumble before being sucked into it like a mini black hole. As the black holes sucked in more matter, including people, they grew larger till they were at least 20 meters across, but their damage range was far greater. As the voids grew smaller and then disappeared, the only thing left in their wake was barren land and clean empty craters at ground zero. Naruto dismissed all but 5 of the clones and cut both his palms. The clones wiped some blood on their thumbs and jumped back. Together all the Narutos ran through the necessary hand seals and slammed their palms on the ground. In seconds a giant cloud covered the area and quickly cleared. As the giant cloud cleared, there around the Narutos were hundreds of drones. You all know what to do. Go. Leading the charge, Naruto's clones and the drones ran down the sides of the cliff like a black waterfall and ran through the village, spreading out across the hidden rock village, with the real Naruto heading up the rear. Naruto fired 2 dual-pronged darts from his right gauntlet that sent their targets flying back into a wall. The darts, however, did not stop till they flew through their targets and embedded themselves in the brick wall. Iwagakure attacked Naruto, who ducked a first punch aimed at his head but got caught in the stomach by the other, but Naruto was able to slash both Chunins with his wrist blade before getting a double kick from the Chunin. Naruto disappeared in a puff of smoke as he hit the ground. Shadow clone. The Chunins did not have time to think as a couple of drones dropped on them from above and 2 of them disappeared with the pair of Chunins. What the hell are those things? And Iwagakure asked. Who cares? Just stop them, yelled her teammate. Mnemonic illusion. Hell viewing jutsu. The Iwagakure cast the gain jutsu at the pack of charging Xenos, her teammates ready to strike when the summons froze in fear, but to their horror and shock, they did not stop and were soon overrun. Naruto tossed one of his clones a bluish silver ball and ran off as 2 teams of genin and their instructors approached. The clone threw the ball at a group of approaching Iwanin and disappeared in a puff of smoke as the ball hit the ground and gave off a loud high-pitched screech that knocked out and paralyzed the nin, allowing drones to move in and capture them. Naruto drew a glaive and rushed towards a group of 4 Iwanin. He ducked under a kunai slashed aimed for his head and with a back sweep, cut the man's left leg off at the thigh. In a swift motion, he followed through with an upswing and cut off the Kunoichi's arm. Moving past the Kunoichi, he went low, trying to take out the legs of a shinobi who jumped over him, avoiding the attack. The shadow clone of Naruto rolled behind him and slashed the shinobi in midair. Ninja art. Poison gas. A purple cloud blew from the Kunoichi's mouth and covered Naruto. But the next thing she knew, she was caught in a metal net that kept getting tighter and tighter. Naruto walked out of the poison cloud and looked at the struggling woman. Sorry, poison hardly affects me. As Naruto walked off, a man with an Iwa hit eye and Jounin vest appeared. My name is Kenji Mikado, I was Wolverine. What the hell is a Wolverine? A fierce and dangerous creature that should not be underestimated. Sounds just like me. Naruto and Kenji rushed forward, but just as they were close enough to hit each other, 2 of Naruto's shadow clones appeared in front of him and started to punch and kick the Jounin before one rolled behind him and kicked him in the back while the one in front kicked him up and the real Naruto flipped above him and kicked him into the ground. Naruto walked over to the crater and as the dust settled, he saw the body of the Jounin turn to mud. Shit. Bushin. Naruto took 2 punches to the stomach and a roundhouse kick to the head, which sent him through the door of a house. As Kenji got closer to the door, Naruto blew a hole in the wall with his plasma caster and walked out firing. Kenji dodged most of the plasma bolts and threw some kunai to intercept the rest. Naruto created a shadow clone and transformed himself into a demon windmill shuriken and was thrown at the elite Jounin, who blocked the shuriken with a kunai but was thrown back by a Rasengan from Naruto as he changed back. Mnemonic illusion. Double false surroundings jutsu. Kenji called out and charged forward as the gain jutsu took effect and Naruto looked around almost confused. Got you. Just as Kenji was within striking distance, Naruto ducked the kunai aimed for his head and connected to the side of his attacker's head with a heel kick. How? Sorry, gain jutsus don't affect me. Who the hell are you? Wouldn't you like to know? Kenji jumped up fully intending to take Naruto's head off with a kick but had to dodge a near point-blank plasma bolt aimed at his head and retaliated with a reverse elbow which broke the plasma caster. Naruto tried to hit the Wolverine with a couple of darts but had to block a kunai with his wrist blade after his attempt. Taking advantage of Naruto pushing him back, Kenji connected with a kick to Naruto's head. Earth style. Earth flow river. Naruto tried to regain his balance but found it nearly impossible on the soft muddy ground. Earth style. Earth dragon bomb. Shit. Naruto was hit hard by the mud flow and clashed through the walls of a building before it collapsed from the damage caused by Naruto and the jutsu. Kenji didn't waste any time, shooting forward as he threw a punch. Naruto stood up just in time for the fist to connect with his face and countered with one of his own. Tenji blocked it and attempted a roundhouse kick to the blonde's face which connected. You fight very well and I still haven't gotten your name. Naruto pulled off his mask and spat out some blood. Naruto Uzumaki. The young hunter ducked beneath another kick and sent a swift uppercut to the man's stomach. Grimacing in pain, Kenji stumbled back a few feet, reaching into his pouch, grabbing 3 kunai in each hand, and threw them at Naruto. Using his wrist blades, he parried even cut in half some of the thrown projectiles, before launching a net at Kenji. He shined behind Naruto and launched a stone spike from the ground into his chest. Lucky for Naruto his armor was harder than the stone, causing the stone tip to break, but it still left a noticeable dent in his armor and threw him back. Kenji grabbed an oil lump and lit it with some rubble that was ablaze and threw it at Naruto who brought his cloak up to protect his face. He tore his burning cloak off and threw a plasma mine. Kenji avoided the blast and threw 3 explosive kunai at Naruto who managed to avoid them. Blind style. Great breakthrough. Naruto rushed forward just behind the wind front and with a flying kick sent the Jounin who was bracing himself against the wind and sent him crashing into the side of a building. Breathing heavily, Naruto approached the downed Jounin who was starting to get to his feet. You are definitely a worthy opponent Uzumaki-san. As are you Mikado-san, it's been a long time since anyone's given me this much of a challenge. But this battle is mine. I doubt you have that much chakra left and your injuries are worse than mine. I still have a trick or two left. Naruto answered as he spat out more blood. I highly doubt that. Haju Ukage Bushin no Jutsu. 100 shadow clones appeared around Naruto and charged the surprised Jounin. Kenji managed to fend off the first few dozen clones but was brought down and overwhelmed when a dart flew through the clones hit his thigh. After the beatdown, most of the clones disappeared, leaving 3 to hold onto the beat Iwa Jounin. As a bleeding and panting Naruto approached, he created a katana with his dark energy. You truly are a great ninja, but underestimating me was your downfall. Naruto complimented as he drove his sword through the man's heart and leaned close to his ear, and I am also the son of the 4th Hokage. Dismissing the clones, Naruto pulls his sword out in a down and out motion, slicing Kenji's heart and chest open. The dark sword dissolved into nothing as Naruto stood over the corpse of the dead Jounin, his face still showing the shock he felt as Naruto died and removed his hit eye. Using his right wrist blade, Naruto cut away the dead man's vest and shirt before cutting into the flesh and bone of his back and reached in and pulled out his spine and skull, letting out an inhuman roar as he held up his new prize. Hanging the skull on his back, Naruto moved towards the Tsuchikage tower. He had to end this now, he won't last another fight with a Jounin-level opponent, but thankfully his drones were keeping most of the shinobi busy. Naruto stopped less than 100 meters from the walls that surrounded the Kage tower and cut both his palms, ran through the necessary hand seals, and slammed both palms on the ground to his sides. A cloud spread across in the area, covering some of the building, obscuring everything from view. After a few moments, the cloud cleared and there around Naruto, next to him and on the building were hundreds upon hundreds of drone reinforcements. Attack. The Konohinin watched in awe and fear at the death and destruction that Naruto was reaping, knowing that this could easily be the fate of the Hidden Leaf Village if Naruto decided to turn against them. Kami-sama. They watched as hundreds of drones scaled the outer walls of the Tsuchikage tower, like a black tidal wave of death, killing and capturing every living thing that stood in their way. A few Iwa Anbu appeared on the top balcony and managed to hold of the wave for mere seconds before they were outflanked and overwhelmed. But just as the first few Xenos entered the balcony, it was engulfed in flames as a loud explosion was heard throughout the village. All the angels stopped moving and stared at the destroyed tower for a moment before letting out a high-pitched scream which to the survivors and the observers sounded like a victory roar. Kakashi lowered his camera as he and the others watched as the angels slowly walked through and spread out through the streets. Most of the ninjas and villagers had lost all hope when the tower was destroyed and just surrendered. Some of the ninjas even took their own lives. Those that did not fight back and surrendered were left alone, but there were still a large number of ninjas and even some villagers who were ready to fight to the death, and death was what they got one way or another. The possibility of me riding a lemon, ever, or slim, I might imply it, but I am doubtful I'll ride one. I usually skip lemons these days. Hanabi is out though. I have enjoyed reading a few NarutoxAlien fics, she's out for this one. I'm thinking about dropping her in a relationship with Konohamaru or a love triangle with Konohamaru and Mogi. Shion and Koyuki are out, for reasons which Naruto will explain in the next. Only Konoichis will be with him in a relationship. Naruto has no allegiances to any village per se, but there are people he does care for and people who have not done him any wrong, like Tsunade and Iruka. Good and bad, hero and villain all depends on whose point of view you are taking, like how Wave and Snow view Naruto as a hero. Naruto is still human and as stated in chapter 4, and he does indiscriminately use people as hosts. Now I might have goofed a little with the Iwa Genin team, since I did not mention age they can be taken as a young Genin team, but regardless moving past that point, there will be a few young ninjas who will be killed. I'm going to try and work a post-mortem on Iwa in chapter 10. Naruto's main goal is not to glorify the hunt, parts of the predator culture are adopted by Naruto, while some may be ignored or reduced in importance. Remember Naruto adopted the ways of the predator, how much has not been revealed or even decided. Predators do not indiscriminately kill any and everyone, they do not kill unarmed people, children, women especially pregnant women, as far as I know there are few expectations to these like a predator fighting Witchblade. In the Dark Horse comic, Alien and Predator vs Witchblade and Darkness, a predator tag teams with a Xenodrone and more or less uses it as a tracking hunting dog, so the Xeno do not always follow the queen, but like I said near the start of this fic traits abilities of the Xenos, I know more about Xenos than I do the Preds, are rather ambiguous even in canon, so for the sake of this fic I will try to make as clear as possible the traits and abilities of the Xenos. Sometimes mixing oil and water is what crossovers are about, so some compromises may have to be made once in a while. Again the ability of the Predalien is based on the AVPR movie, and I'm sticking to that. There was an attempt by the Xenos in Nightmare Asylum to use a human female to give birth to multiple drones through the vagina and connected to umbilical cords, but it was a failed attempt as the newborns did not last long after birth and the status of the female is unknown, presumed dead as it was a flashback and the guy was the only survivor. The hive was sick and dying likely from a mold spore found on the planet Hive. There is another more economical way to increase the number of drones, but I'll save that for later. And for those still questioning Naruto's overall goals and objectives and why he acts like he does, then you can read the spoiler in chapter 6. Konoha, Hokage's office. Tsunade sat at her desk, a bottle of sake in front of her and a cup in her hand, but she had hardly touched it. Honestly, she wasn't looking to get wasted, she'd already cleared all the paperwork that she had to do for the day, probably the next couple of days. It's been that way since Asuma and the others had returned and told her not only were they unable to set up a meeting with Naruto, he was on his way to Iwa to attack it. She was worried for two reasons. One was the pure absolute worry she was feeling of the sheer amount of danger that Naruto was heading into, and there was no way she could send people to help. Two, the Hokage mountain-sized headache she was sure to get when word gets out of Naruto's attempt. She hoped he succeeded, the pros outweighed the cons of him failing. It did not surprise her that Team Kakashi went with Naruto, what surprised her was that Tenten went with him and that she had developed feelings for Naruto during her stay at his base. Another problem was Hinata, while her father had somewhat softened over the years she was severely testing his patience by locking herself in her room since she got back. She couldn't blame Hinata though, the poor girl's been in love with a brat for pretty much forever and having another girl move in must have been pretty devastating. The Daime was also worried about her apprentice, based on the counselor's reports and her own talks with the pink-haired girl, she would have wagered that Sakura would have made some kind of advance towards Naruto. Thus her title of the legendary sucker still holds true. Tsunade-sama. Tsunade looks up and gives a tired smile to Shizune. Are you okay? Just thinking about some stuff. Naruto. Yeah, I don't think a day has gone by that I haven't thought or worried about the Gak Naruto. Shizune took a cup and poured some sake for herself. She may not have missed Naruto as much as her sensei, but she still missed him a lot, and so have a lot of other people. Konoha had never been the same since he left. Everything's been quieter and less bright. She was about to say something when there was a knock on the door and she got up to open the door and did not notice anyone and was about to close the door when a voice called out to her. Hey. Down here. Bakun. Shizune moved out of the way of the panting and sweating Nin dog. Bakun gave the tape to Tsunade, who decided to watch it, while Shizune carried a tired Bakun out to get some food and water. As the tape rolled on, showing Tsunade what Kakashi saw, her eyes grew wider and wider, till they were at their limits. Shizune. Iwagakure, days earlier. Naruto walked up a slope towards where he knew the rest were waiting and placed his hand on the sizable dent on his armor and groaned before looking over his shoulder and spoke, "You really did a number on my ribs, Wolverine-san." He looked to the village and watched the destruction that was brought to Iwa thanks to him, his angels swarming the village looking for those that would still resist. He turned to the tallest peak surrounding Iwagakure and smirked when he saw the predator mark curved into it by his clones, a reminder to Iwa and anyone else that he was responsible for all the death and destruction witnessed by all today. Now it was up to Konoha and or Suna to pick up the scraps. Naruto walked up to a tree and fell to his knees and started to cough up blood and started to remove his chest armor. Shit. That hurts like hell. Easy kid. I'm healing you as best as I can, but you'll still have some blood in your lungs which you will have to clear yourself or get your pink-haired friend to do it. I'll think about it. You goddamn lucky kid, especially since the Tsuchikage decided to turn tail and run instead of facing you. You might have been in real trouble since you had problem taking on a jounin. I doubt you could have taken on a Kage. Shut it, Fox. I could have used awakening, besides if you didn't think I was ready would you let me go ahead. I believed the plan would work and the overwhelming numbers of the angels would have been enough and they were. Yes we won, but it heavier loses than expected. Naruto-kun. Naruto dropped his armor and turned to see Tenten and Sakura running ahead of Kakashi and Sasuke towards him. Tenten beat Sakura to him and tackled him and hugged him tightly much to Sakura and Naruto's displeasure though for different reasons. Tenten. Get off him. He's hurt. Sakura yelled as she pulled Tenten off. I'm sorry Naruto-kun. Tenten gave Naruto an apologetic look before shooting a glare at Sakura. Hold still Naruto, I'll heal you. She reached over to him but he stopped her hand. Later. We'll get out of here first. But Naruto-kun. Later Sakura. His voice left no room for argument as he sealed his damaged weapons, mask and armor into a scroll and got to his feet and shakingly got to his feet and started to walk away, but his legs failed him. Naruto-kun. The girls caught him before he hit the ground. Listen here Naruto. Either you let me heal you now or I'll beat you into unconsciousness, then heal you. DFF. Fine. Naruto reluctantly lay on the ground to allow Sakura to work. You should have let us help you Naruto-kun even if we're not a team anymore. Iwa is our enemy and we would have helped. Naruto just kept quiet while Sakura completed her work. There. Done. Thank you Sakura-chan. Sakura smiled as Tenten helped him to his feet and they left the area. As they left, the drones started to disappear till the only thing that was were the survivors, dead bodies and the remains of a decimated village. Naruto and his companions stopped after getting miles away from Iwa. It was at a slower pace than Naruto would have liked, but till he could get healed fully, he would have to move at a slower pace. In the end, they set up camp in the forest they were in, and Sakura was able to heal Naruto further and remove the blood from his lung. Naruto unsealed his armor and removed his newest bloody trophy, much to the discomfort of the others. First blasting it with a cleaning and drying agent before looking at his handiwork. Curiosity getting the better of her, Sakura swallowed the lump in her throat and asked why he kept that particular ninja's skull. It's one of the ways of the predator that I have adopted. Some predators were said to have hunted humans at one time, not just used them as breeding stock, though we were considered minor trophies. I keep the skulls and forehead protectors of strong opponents, I guess in a kind of twisted way it's my way of honoring them, but also a way to show my strength. Nah Naruto-kun you don't expect me to collect 2 human trophies do you? Tenten asked nervously. I expect you to collect trophies Ten-chan, nothing more nothing less. Tenten sighed in relief and blushed at his nickname for her. Sakura decided to ignore the nickname and ask another question that popped into her head, where do you normally get your trophies Naruto, and are they were all skulls because that was all we saw in your room. I go on hunting trips occasionally to hone my skills, but sometimes I encounter creatures that I deem worthy of being trophies, and of course I need money for supplies so bounty hunting this the easiest way to earn that money sometimes. And your trophies? Sasuke asked as he threw another log on the fire. Well I have taken tusks and teeth from animals, but for humans it's just been skulls so far, but who knows, if I go against a Dojutsu user, I might take their eyes as trophies instead. The smile he gave sent a chill down Sasuke and Kakashi's spines. Not funny dope. Not funny. Sasuke grumbled as he reached for a piece of meat on the fire. Well it is to me team. We will part ways in the morning so that you can return to Konoha and inform the Hokage what's happened. I've already sent Pakun with a message to the Hokage. Regardless, we will part ways in the morning. Konoha, Hokage's office, present time. The remainder of the Konoha 11, including Hinata and their senseis, were summoned to the Hokage's office by several Anbu. As you all know, Naruto made an attempt to attack Iwa several days ago, and Pakun arrived earlier today with a tape from Kakashi, who was recording the battle. She started the video. Naruto was able to seriously cripple Iwa, some shinobi from Suna and Konoha are approaching Iwa to survey the damage and if possible, secure it. Yosh. So Naruto-kun was successful. Just how strong is that kid Asuma wondered out loud. They watched and wondered what was that technique that Naruto was using and if it was another elemental version of the Rasengan. Is that how powerful Naruto-kun is? Kurenai asked as they watched the results of the Rasen Shinkyu and followed up with summoning hundreds of his angels. Only Naruto could have pulled off a victory using such a strategy. Using that new technique of his to destroy most of the strategic targets, then overwhelming them with so many of his angels. Shikamaru offered. There must have been hundreds close to 1,000 of those things. Yes and he used them and his shadow clones to distract and take down as many of their ninjas as possible without exposing himself too much. Asuma added. Those weapons of his are no joke. He pointed out as Naruto threw his smart disc that cut through a couple of kunai before cutting the legs of a ninja off, then cutting another clean through the waist. He looks like he's having a hard time with that jounin. Kurenai pointed out, is that I was Wolverine? Asuma whistled, it is and it looks like he's giving Naruto a hard time. Everyone watched silently as the fight progressed till finally Naruto pulled off a win. Damn. Naruto's gotten quite strong, low jounin at least I think. Most people tend to underestimate Naruto, and it looks like this time it did not just cost one person but an entire village. Shino pointed put while Shikamaru, Kiba and Niji nodded in agreement. Hey. What's he doing? Kiba asked as he pointed at the TV. Oh my god. Did he just. I think I'm about to lose my youthful breakfast. Kurenai and Shizune looked sick and Tsunade was faring little better. Hinata had fainted and Ino had to take a seat before helping Hinata. Kiba looked ready to show everyone what he had for breakfast as Naruto attached his trophy to his back and approached the Kage Tower and summoned more angels. Damn, how many of those things does he have? I think we better revise our estimates from hundreds to thousands. What a drag. 1,000 of those things storming any village will be a major headache and somehow he managed to catch them when they are at a low point of their defense. Asuma pointed out. The Gaki always seemed to have the devil's luck with him. I don't think so, Hokage-sama. Everyone turned their attention to Ino. Before we left, the other girls and I spoke to Naruto and he knew that most of their forces had already left Iwa. When asked how, he just said he had his sources. Hinata nodded in agreement. This is troubling. Is it possible that he has a spy network of sorts? It is logical. The brat's become a real headache. There's no choice, I have to inform the council about Naruto and what's he done. The shit's about to hit the fan. Kiba commented and nobody could disagree with him. Vijayamura. Vijayamura, the village of blacksmiths, was once a thriving village near the border between fire and earth country, filled with many skilled blacksmiths which made a range of metal products, though the most famous of those blacksmiths were actually weaponsmiths. However, at the end of the Third Shinobi War, most of the more famous and sought-after blacksmiths left to set up shop at other major business centers, some even heading into Earth Country, and with them went most of the business. Fortunately, instead of becoming a ghost town or destitute, the village managed to survive through farming and a modest tourist trade, thanks in part to the nearby forest and artificial hot springs. Naruto woke up in bed feeling refreshed after his battle at Iwa and a couple of nights in the forest, and was about to get out bed till he felt an extra pair of arms around him. Looking to either side, he noticed he wasn't alone in bed. I thought I told the two of you to get your own room or stay on the couch. Naruto growled. Ah, but Naruto-kun, it was cold last night and after everything we've been through, why are you acting like that? Tenten pouted before glaring at Sakura, her I can understand. What was that, panda? You heard me, Pinky. Weapons whore. Billboard brow. Meatball head. Hot head. Taking advantage of the distraction of the two girls who got off the bed and faced each other on either side, Naruto slid out the bottom of the bed, grabbed a shirt, a couple of scrolls and headed out the door. He wanted breakfast and ignored a certain fox wanting to see a cat fight. Why are we even arguing? Do you even like Naruto-kun? Tenten yelled. Sakura stopped mid-yell and thought for a few moments before she looked down, her hair covering her eyes. I don't know. Well, guess what? I do. Tenten walked towards the door but stopped as she reached for the doorknob. Honestly, Sakura, I think you do like him, but make no mistake, I like Naruto-kun too, and it's not because of his weapons either, and I'm not going to lose him to anyone. Hey dope. Mind if I join you? Sasuke sat down before Naruto even answered. I'd rather you were halfway back to Konoha by now, team. So how'd you sleep last night? Sasuke smirked. Naruto sipped his coffee before answering, sleeping was fine. Waking up was the problem. You know it's not nice to string the girls along, especially Sakura. She really missed you and cares about you. Sasuke gave him a concerned look before drinking his own cup of coffee. Since when did you take on the role of caring and concerned friend? About the same time you took up the role of brooding bastard. Better than a brooding emo bastard. I was not emo. But you were a bastard. Just eat your breakfast, dope. Sasuke pushed the plate of bacon and eggs which the waitress placed on the table towards Naruto and ordered a plate for himself. Naruto, dressed in a brown cloak sans his armor and mask, walked up to a blacksmith shop with an old man working by the anvil. Though old, the man did not seem the least bit disturbed by the work he was doing. I need my armor repaired. Naruto showed the armor to the aged blacksmith. Of course, young man. The blacksmith smiled and took the armor and started to heat it and spoke in a softer voice. Goku wants to speak with you. That's good, cause I need to speak with him as well. He's in the back. Your armor will be ready tomorrow. This metal you use is light, but it's a pain to work with. Yes, but it's worth it. The blacksmith grunted as Naruto walked into the back room and was greeted by a young man slightly older than he was with brown hair and glasses. Ah. Naruto-san. The young man bowed. Goku. Good to see you again. Naruto returned the bow. You wanted to see me? Yes, I am pleased to inform you that I was able to recreate the external power pack and trigger for your shoulder plasma caster. But timing. Naruto unsealed his damaged mask and plasma caster. It was damaged in battle, but at least with the power pack, I can use it as a handheld till I get back to the hive. Yes, but is it wise, Naruto-san? I saw you traveling with some Konoha nin, and I thought you did not intend to return to Konoha. They decided to tag along for old time's sake. I have little intention of returning to Konoha as one of their shinobi, not that I would not return at all, but you have a point, I will have to wait till I return to the hive to repair my gear. Anything else? Just one more. One of our other associates has informed me that he has made some progress on the lift system, and we found someone willing to work on your larger project. Excellent. What about the recreation of the alloys? I'm afraid while we've made some progress, it will take us years to recreate anything even close to resembling the properties of the alloys you brought us, but my grandfather has some new materials coming in and with his expertise, we're sure to make a breakthrough, but don't you have enough of the weapons? Yes, I do, but eventually they will run out and I can't spend time searching the battlefield for weapons I can reuse. I understand, Naruto-san, and we will do everything in our power to help you like you helped us. Thank you. Naruto reached into his cloak and threw Goku a scroll. For you and your grandfather, and I will send a couple of shadow clones in the evening to learn the necessary skills and information from you. Thank you, Naruto-san, and thank you for your bodyguards. They are for your protection and mine. Konoha, Council Chamber. The Council of Konoha gathered in their usual meeting room with the Hokage's seat at the head of the table closest to the door, and the elders and their invited guest, Danzo, sat at the other end with the civilians on the left and the shinobi on the right. Hokage-sama, why have you called for this meeting? Hiashi Hyuga asked. I have received confirmation of an attack on Iwa which has left them severely crippled. There were some excited chatter around the room before one of the civilians asked, who did it, was it our ninja or Suna's? Neither. Noticing that everyone was waiting for Tsunade to explain, she continues, you all are aware of the incident involving the hunter that attacked those enemy camps, as well as some of our ninjas in pursuit of some escapees and had strange and dangerous creatures with him. It was him. Then we should try to get him to join us. I'm sure he will be a powerful addition to Konoha. A middle-aged civilian councilwoman stated and received many nods of support. I had sent a few teams to try and find and negotiate with this hunter, but they were unable to set up a meeting before he decided to attack Iwa, but we were about to confirm his identity. Everyone leaned forward, the hunter is confirmed as Naruto Uzumaki. There were many shouts of outrage, especially from the civilian side of the council. I say we capture the demon and force him to hand over control of those creatures, then execute him. Yelled the same councilwoman and received many shouts of support. He destroyed Iwa in 20 minutes, something we've been trying to do for 20 years, and you want to go to war with him? Tsunade asked, disgusted by the stupidity of the civilian council members, and crashed one of the chair handles, trying to keep her temper under control. Maybe we don't have to force him. A long silver-haired councilman with glasses spoke with a confident smirk. Uzumaki was always an idiot, I'm sure we can convince him to help us. Then when he is no longer of any use we get rid of him. This was met by more support and resulted in Tsunade completely destroying the chair handle, not that any of the happily oblivious civilians who were either chatting about what they would do with the demon brat and how they would soon be part of the strongest village in all the elemental countries. Most of the shinobi felt the same as the Hokage about the civilians and were growing more annoyed and disgusted with them. It was at this point that Tsunade decided to rain on their parade. I highly doubt that he will help Konoha. She spoke out, gaining everyone's attention, and pulled out a book. What's that? It's a bingo book, Naruto's bingo book. Tsunade quickly flipped through the pages and randomly stopped at one page. She'd already read it and knew what was in it, and it is pretty much every member of Rude and its supporters that Naruto wants or intends to get rid of before he decides what to do with Konoha. That is outrageous. The arrogance of that demon. Yelled a bold council member. See for yourself, Councilman Akari, after all you are in it. Tsunade slid the book over to him, trying her best to keep the amusement out of her face and voice. She never did like him. Danzo, you have to do something. Akari was as wide as a sheet as he threw the book to Danzo, who looked through the book. His eye was open and it widened slightly, which did not go unnoticed by the experienced shinobi. Do not worry, Councilman Akari, I do not know how he got these names, but there is no way that Brat or any of his minions can get into Konoha, let alone his intended targets. Akari laughed nervously, ha ha ha, you're right, there is no way that demon brat can get me, he's just ahhhh. Akari was cut off by a barbed tail busting through the ceiling and impaling him through the back of his chair and his stomach. He was lifted up and brought face to face with a drone that had impaled him before putting him out of his misery with a tongue shot through his skull before tossing the corpse aside and dropped onto the table, revealing itself to be a runner. The runner turned towards Danzo and charged, the rest of the council scattered while Danzo summoned 4 of his root Anbu. 2 of the root members rushed forward whilst the other 2 stayed in defensive position in front of Danzo. The runner ducked under the sword strikes of the attacking Anbu and in quick succession, spat acid at one of them who blocked the spray with his sword which he discarded only to be tackled by the runner and killed by a tongue strike through his mask. The runner flipped out of the way of another sword strike and shot its tail towards the root member who blocked and parried the follow-up strikes from the runner before cutting off the end of its tail. The drone screamed in pain before backing up on its hind legs, spraying the deadly fluids at its targets. The shinobi of the council got out of the way just in case, and some regular Anbu appeared and moved some of the civilians to safety. Using the runner's distraction to their advantage, the 3 root Anbu attacked, one pinned its tail to the table, while the other 2 stabbed it in the chest, but with the last of its strength, the runner ripped out the throat of one of the root members and shot its tongue through the mask of the other, before dropping the 2 dead bodies and collapsing between them. The sole remaining root Anbu appeared next to Danzo for a moment before disappearing again. Well, I guess we can at least examine. Tsunade was cut off when a blue symbol for fire appeared on the head of the dead runner before it was consumed in an intense blue flame. Guess not. Tsunade sighed and fell back into her chair. What are you going to do about the demon? Nothing. Everyone was stunned at what she said. As Hokage, it is my duty to ensure the safety of the whole village, not just a few. She really wanted to say a few pain in the ass bigots, but she thought better of it. The room was in an uproar, mostly on the civilian side of the council. We are still at war with the other 3 villages full of skilled shinobi, ready to try and wipe this village out of existence, and you want to make an enemy of the one person that may tip the scales in our favor or wipe us off the map in a heartbeat. While no one outright challenged her, the mumbles were loud enough to let her know that many were not happy. And let me remind you that from my reports, he has hordes of these angels as he calls them at his disposal, and after his attack on Iwa, he will have much more. Then what do you propose, Hokage-sama? Danzo spat out her title as if it left a foul taste in his mouth. The way I see it, the best option would be to protect the targets as best as we can while we try to broker a truce or even an alliance with Naruto. Either that or we either kill or hand over the targets ourselves to improve our chances, or we leave the targets to fend for themselves. Then maybe we need a new Hokage. Shouted a civilian council member followed by shouts of support from others. Then so be it. That shut them up. Naruto has already stated in his letter that if I choose to, I may leave this village unharmed by him, as long as I do not take anyone in that book with me. Once I am gone, he will attack in an instant. If I or anyone else he still cares about is threatened or held against their will, he will attack. Members of the council, both civilian and shinobi, stared at her in disbelief, though some like the Nara, Yamanaka, Akamichi, Yuga and Aburami kept quiet to listen to her explain, though they had a fairly good idea why she would say that. The only reason I came back and became the Gon Daime in the first place was because Naruto made me believe that this village was worth something, that this village was worth protecting, and that being Hokage was an honor. That was what Naruto taught me. Everyone in the room fell silent. But since he was driven out by this very village, I've struggled to remain Hokage. I realized that I wasn't not as strong as Naruto emotionally, even with everything that this village threw at him till the day he left. He only wanted to protect this village, and he would have given his life to do it just like his father did. Everyone was puzzled by what she meant, but were not able to ask to explain as she got up and headed for the door with Shizune. Replace me if you wish, but tomorrow, I will reveal Naruto's heritage and what he's done. As she walked out the door, she was followed by the Nara, Yamanaka, Akamichi, Hyuga and Aburami clan heads and some other members. Konoha, root hideout. Danzo was having a good day. At the rate things are going, he will not even need to assassinate Tsunade to become Hokage, she will be removed. The problem is some of the clan heads and even some of the civilian council members, they were the ones that stood in his way of becoming Gon Daime in the first place. Therefore, he had already planned to remove some of these obstacles. The civilians are easy enough, he did not even need to kill them, just frighten them as if one of the enemies, or better yet the Uzumaki brat was after them, and if Tsunade was not going to protect them, then he would as the Roku Daime. Of course if necessary, he would kill those that still stood in his way, it would be a necessary sacrifice for Konoha. He just had to make sure the squads did their jobs or his plans will be hindered. Danzo-sama. A root member appeared, kneeling in front of Danzo. Squads 8, 14 and 15 have disappeared and are suspected to be dead. It must be that brat. He's becoming a bigger annoyance than expected. We will have to speed up our plans or leave Konoha for the time being. Your orders, Danzo-sama. Prepare a special assassination squad. I will be Hokage before the end of this month. Till then, keep all activities to a minimum, but have the remaining squads continue with their current missions. Hi. Kajimura. Why are you following me? An annoyed Naruto asked. Sasuke was walking next to him with his hands behind his head, was done training with Kakashi-sensei this morning, and decided to tag along with you. Why don't you hang with Sakura or Tenten? Are you crazy? Those two are so wound up I'm afraid they'd take my head off if I go anywhere near them. How'd you sleep with them last time? Got myself another room last night. Sasuke groaned, no wonder Sakura and Tenten looked so pissed this morning. He and Kakashi could hardly enjoy breakfast that morning, with the amount of killing intent coming off both girls who sat next to each other and across from them. They had to keep one eye on the girls at all times lest they snapped and attacked each other, worst, them. Sai, where are we going anyway? Here. This is Hayashi Koichi, the finest blacksmith in Kajimura. By the way, is my armor ready? Of course it is, Naruto-san. Koichi went to the back and returned with Naruto's armor. Most of the dents were all gone, but it still looked battle-worn. Thank you. Naruto handed Koichi a roll of bills and wore his armor. Can you help me? I'm thinking about getting a sword that I can channel chakra through, and I'd prefer to use it for attack rather than defense. Sasuke asked. Koichi stroked his chin. I think I have what you're looking for. He went to the returned with a sword wrapped in cloth and tossed it to Sasuke. It's my finest work. It's exquisite. The sword was beautiful though lacking the curve of a traditional katana. Its design looked as intricate and deadly as any of its brethren. It lacked a handguard, and the handle and sheath were similar and unassuming, but its simplicity was part of its beauty. I can let you have it for 50,000 ryu. That's more than I carry with me. Sasuke frowned then brightened up. Hey Naruto, loan me the money. What? Hell no. That's a small fortune. Come on dope. Spare me the cash. No. Naruto turned and walked off. Come on. Some friend you are. Sasuke called out and ran after Naruto. You shoved a chidori through my chest. I wasn't myself. No. I'll pay you back. No. I'll apologize for shoving that chidori through your chest. You owe me that regardless. Konoha. Most of Konoha was assembled outside of the Hokage tower as Tsunade walked onto the balcony and looked over the crowd below. Everyone was waiting in anticipation at what their leader had to say. Last week Iwa was attacked and was severely crippled. Hearing that, the crowd cheered while she continued. The one who attacked and destroyed most of Iwa was the son of the Yondaime Hokage. There were harsh whispers before they broke out in louder cheers. Who is he? Where is the hero of the leaf? These were the general cries from the crowd. He is not here. And you all know him, after all it was this village that scorned him and ultimately drove him away. Seeing the confused looks on the crowd's face, Tsunade continued, he is none other than Naruto Uzumaki, the Jinchuriki of Kyuubi no Kitsune. There was a stunned silence before the crowd broke out in an uproar, denying what was just said or calling for Naruto's death. Silence. I hereby revoke the law instated by the Sandium so that I may explain to the younger generation. What I am about to tell you was an S-class secret which the older generation know, but under the laws of the Sandaime Hokage, none of the younger generation were to be told about it under penalty of death. The Yondaime did not kill the Kyuubi 12 years ago, no human can kill a demon, so he summoned the Shinigami to help stop the Kyuubi, but he had to have something he could place the Kyuubi in where it would not be able to escape. The only thing strong enough to hold the Kyuubi and keep it from breaking free is a newborn child. A child is required because their chakra coils are not developed yet, and so as the child grows, they would slowly absorb the demon's chakra making it their own, and when they die, they would take the demon with them. That baby was Naruto Uzumaki, who was given his mother's name to protect him from his father's enemies. Most of the older generation were fuming, while the younger one were talking about Naruto and the way they had acted towards him, some blaming their parents. For as long as this Naruto has lived, most have despised him for the burden he carries, and few have even given him a chance to show them otherwise, and many more have tried to end his life before it had hardly even begun. The Yondaime's dying wish was for Naruto to be seen as a hero for keeping Kyuubi at bay, but instead everything was done to make Naruto's life miserable. Few have acknowledged the Yondaime's last wish for his own son. Do you really think he would put the burden on someone else's child? Minato was too kind-hearted to ask another parent to give up their own child if he was not also willing to do it. You people praise his father for his brilliance, skill and sacrifice, yet you act as if the seal he placed on Naruto was so inferior that Kyuubi would take over Naruto when you were told he said it wouldn't. Some of the people, especially the younger generation, looked down in shame as they realized that they were blaming Naruto for something that was out of his control or that they never took the time to get to know him. I have with me the last will and testament of Minato Namikaze, the Yondaime Hokage, and it leaves all his worldly possessions to Naruto and his wife, which includes some of the most powerful jutsus created, some of which were what made him famous. I also hold the last will and testament of Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze, who tragically passed away after giving birth to Naruto due to complications. Kushina was a former Anbu captain and a member of the Uzumaki clan of the former Whirlpool country, famed for having control over water element and jutsus that rivaled that of the Nidames. She too leaves all her worldly possessions to Naruto, which include powerful jutsus known only to the Uzumaki clan. Most of the civilian council were whispering amongst themselves, mainly about how they can get their hands on the jutsu scrolls and give them to, in their opinions, more deserving clans and more importantly keep them out of the demon brat's hands. And maybe as a bonus, anything else that was of value. With the passing of both Minato and Kushina Namikaze, Naruto is the sole surviving member of both Uzumaki and Namikaze clans. All the possessions have been sealed in the Namikaze compound before the sealing of QB and cannot be accessed by anyone but a living member of the clan, namely Naruto. The same boy that was chased out of this village and who single-handedly brought about destruction to Iwa, the likes of which have not been seen since the Second Shinobi War. I hope you all think long and hard about this. With that, Tsunade returned to her office, leaving the crowd in a mix of shock, confusion and outrage. Tsunade walked into her office and closed the door behind her and fell onto the couch by the door and sighed. You really know how to cause an uproar, don't you, Tsunade Haim? Shut up, pervert. Tsunade lay down on the couch as Jiraiya walked over from the window ledge and gave her a small bottle of sake. Thanks. You know there are bound to be repercussions for what you did, right? The hell with it. This is the repercussions for what they did to Naruto. Jiraiya frowned. Tsunade, you're the Hokage, you can't let your personal feelings get in the way of your duties. You think I don't know that? What about our duties, Jiraiya? We are Naruto's godparents. And a damn fine job we've done. Sigh, I know, Tsunade, I know, and I'm not exactly proud of the job I've done. I was planning to take him a training trip before the Uchiha incident and I tried finding him but no luck, even reverse summoning didn't work. If I didn't know that the Gaki was too stubborn to die, I would have thought he was dead. Don't even joke about that. I know, but the point is, think about all the Hokages before you and everything they've sacrificed for this village, including their lives. Yes, Dan, Nawaki, Minato, Sarutobi-sensei, everyone gave their lives for this village, and at one time so would Naruto, no matter what this village did to him, but now I am not sure. Tsunade walked over to her window and looked out over the village. I've been having a dream lately, almost like a premonition. Jiraiya stood straight. It was not unusual for experienced ninjas to get premonitions once in a while and have them come true. I was watching the village from this very spot, then just over the horizon outside the gates, a sea of black approached the gate and in front of it is a figure in a black cloak with flames at the bottom of it. When I looked closer, it was Naruto, but his eyes were slit like the fox's and that sea of black was an endless horde of his creatures and with a raise of his hand, they swarmed Konoha. That is very disturbing. Yes, so it seems like no matter what I do, Konoha is quite screwed. Most of Naruto's friends and their families were given a separate area from the rest of the crowd where they could hear the Hokage's announcement and more importantly away from Danzo and the rest of the council. Hinata was not with them as she told them that she wasn't feeling well, but her father suspected she was still feeling depressed. Either way, he had Hanabi stay with her to take care of her. Everyone was stunned at the Hokage's announcement, especially Ino and Hiashi, though some of them had their suspicions like Shino, Shikamaru and his father, even Hiashi actually, but he always dismissed them. Iwa's Minato's son Hiashi had a look of disbelief on his face before he bursted out laughing, shocking everyone present. Hiashi-sama, may I ask what is so amusing? Niji asked. Hiashi took a few deep calming breaths, but it was clear that he wanted to start laughing again. Niji, do you know who Hinata has a crush on? Kurenai tensed. She did not think that the Hyuga clan head has ever approved of Hinata's crush on Naruto. I think the only one who doesn't is Naruto himself. Niji answered. Yes, so much like his father in that aspect. Minato and I were best friends along with Yugaku Uchiha despite our differences. Hiashi explained. Anyway, to make a long story short, Yugaku and I have a marriage contract with Minato to marry either our oldest or one of our daughters to Minato's oldest son. Hiashi waited a few seconds for the information to sink in before he started laughing again, this time joined in by Kurenai and lightly by Niji, imagining Hinata's reaction when she finds out she's engaged to Naruto. So this part ends here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, so quickly like this video for second part of this series. And comment down below your thoughts about this series. And now it's time for me to go, bye.